Howdy y'all, and welcome back to my little corner of the world, and I Am a Champion, my series where I talk about all things I love about the Olympics and Paralympics. Now, of course, this year I missed the Olympics, so I'm talking to you predominantly about the Paralympics, and sometimes how they actually compare with the Olympics. So there you go, I'm still kind of doing both. I don't know how many of these videos I'll be able to make, but today I thought I'd take a little time to talk to you about a tale as old as Paralympians and Olympians. One major headline this year for the Beijing Winter Olympics was that the oldest competitor at the Beijing Olympics was a 49-year-old speed skater. 49. Turning 50 a couple days after the closing ceremonies. Now contrast that with the Paralympics. Last night I was watching an alpine skiing event, the Super G, and several times I heard a person's name followed by the fact that they were 49 years old making their debut at the Paralympics. Wow. Soon followed by the fact that there was a 57-year-old who was actually one of the medal hopefuls, one that they expected the most to be on the podium. 57. Now, she didn't make it on the podium at that very event that I was watching, but that was mostly because of the fact that her guide, because she was a visually impaired athlete, her guide had paperwork issues and had to be switched out last minute. So she was working with a new guide, and they didn't really get a chance to gel well together before, a majorly important race. Her guide, by the way, was her daughter. I believe she was a 22-year-old daughter of a 57-year-old athlete. That's just incredible. And some might wonder, why is there such a big gap in the age difference between Olympics and Paralympics? I mean, on average, you'll see 20-ish-year-olds, maybe mid-30-year-olds in the Olympics being medal contenders. Unless, of course, you're talking figure skating, and then we're talking teenagers predominantly. But in the Paralympics, actually, you're looking more at probably 30 to mid-40-year-olds are more likely the medal hopefuls. The big difference between the Olympics and the Paralympics is really when it starts, when the sports start for the actual athletes. You see, with Olympics, of course, you start at able-bodied, you stay able-bodied, and you train able-bodied. From like age 3, 5, 6, sometimes 7 years old, very few actually wait until their teens to get started. There are a few, but it's very few. Most of them start before they even hit puberty. And that is why they're able to be such elite athletes so early in life. Now contrast that with the Paralympics, and you have people predominantly, now not 100%, who were not necessarily born with their disability, or maybe didn't have access to the kind of sports for their disability until later in life. So they started their sports oftentimes not until their teens, 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s. Now, how crazy is that to think? In the Olympics, when someone gets badly injured, we just assume they're done with the sport because they're done. Their body would surely not want to keep going with this. Unlike the Paralympics, where that's actually how their sport started for a lot of them. They got badly injured, and then they found the sport. Or then they picked themselves up and got better at their sport. It's pretty mind-blowing, in my opinion. Also, interesting to note that while there haven't been many, in fact, I believe you could probably count them on your hand, Paralympians in the Olympics, there have been a few. In fact, typically guides that I've heard this Winter Olympics, but I'm sure there have been more. I just can't find a lot of records on the Paralympic athletes, unfortunately. There have been a few Olympic hopefuls or Olympic competing athletes from previous Olympics that you will see in Paralympics. Sometimes because they got injured and they found a new way to continue their sport, and other times because they were done being a major competitor, but they wanted to be a guide for a visually impaired athlete. So there are just a few differences between the Olympics and Paralympics, especially when it comes to a tale as old as Olympians and Paralympians. I hope you've enjoyed this little video. I hope I'm able to make more, but I make no guarantees. I also really hope you are able to find and watch and share the Paralympic experience with somebody out there that you love and care about. God bless y'all. Thanks for watching, and go find the Paralympics. God bless. Bye.